I'm back here at the IMI dealership in Cape Town, Italian motorcycle importers into South Africa. And the reason I'm back is because last weekend we were invited to the official unveiling and launch of the brand new Aprilia RSV4 Factory in Cape Town. Now that bike was completely booked out for test rides the entire day, and as Route 21 I had the privilege of having that first test ride and that first maiden ride around the beautiful landscape of Cape Town. However, it was a quick ride because respect to the other riders all getting a chance to go for it, and I promised you I would come back and review that bike in more in-depth and have a proper ride. What we're going to do different this time, we're going to take her for a ride first and have some fun, and then we will talk about the specs in more detail. Really cool TFT display, full color. And let's go for that ride. Coming from Johannesburg, I need to always remember that we're down at sea level, which makes a massive difference. Johannesburg is between 15 and 1600 meters above sea level. The altitude makes a big difference when it comes to horsepower. And here in Cape Town, sea level makes a difference. And we have 217 horsepower beneath us, and that requires a lot of respect. Not like that. Oh, look at this weather in Cape Town. Back on an Aprilia. Does life get any better than this? We're going to head up out of Cape Town, up the north coast, Eysterfontein a little bit. There's open roads where we can really open up a little bit. A few twisties here and there. But the first thing I did notice with my test ride versus the outgoing Aprilia RSV4 Factory is that this later spec from 2021-22 onwards is definitely more refined. Just when you had that perfect swan song top of the range 2020 RSV4 Factory that we reviewed in a previous episode with all the carbon bits and acropovic pipe, just when you thought they could not do any better, Aprilia went and took it to the next level. Immediately with the first test ride, I noticed that this bike is more refined. It is smoother. The quick shifter gear changes seem to be slicker, and the throttle response is not as wild and on off. It's just a smoother, more refined gear with a roll on. Very tractable, very controllable. See, that quick shifter is so smooth. The bike hardly moves bucks. It hardly does anything. It's just so quick, so smooth, silky smooth nearly, and easy. So that is just incredible. When you think they can't go better than what they had, they step it up, and Aprilia has done it again. Now this RSV4 has been around for quite some time, as mentioned before. It started life, I first saw it unveiled in Italy in 2008. It was first launched onto public roads in 2009. Enjoyed 12 years of success in the previous guise before this first major facelift. It did evolve over the first 12 years with winglets added on. It started under 1000 cc, ended life at 1077 cc, sorry. That's why it became known as 1100. And out of the 54 titles, as it says on the tank over here, 7 of them were achieved on the World Superbike stage, and most famously by Max Biaggi. And this story continues, the legend continues. So fantastic heritage, and this RSV4 is quickly becoming the pinnacle and the go-to bike when it comes to superbikes. I mean, the opposition really has to pay attention to where Aprilia is taking this, as they are on the cutting edge of technology. This bike has many influences from the MotoGP project, the RSGP of Aprilia. Things such as the rear swing arm is derived off the MotoGP bike. It's turned upside down. It has a stiffened swing arm. It is lighter, using lighter materials. That gives you less unsprung weight. It also gives you better stability on hard acceleration. The other thing that comes straight off the MotoGP project would be the integrated winglets. Now if we look here, the winglets, no longer are they a bolt-on like with the outgoing model. This is now completely integrated with the fairings. So this RSV4 is definitely next level. Here we are on a little bit of an open road where we can stunning. So as mentioned, really the technologies developed and prototyped on the MotoGP circuits brought to the roads is fantastic, and Aprilia's constant strive for top technology, top equipment is shown with their commitment to be racing at the highest level of MotoGP and bringing what they learned from the world stage on the MotoGP side to the road bikes, which is fantastic. And you can definitely feel that they're pushing the boundaries with bikes like these and really coming out with fantastic innovations. The next thing, this factory, or not only the factory, the new RSV4 has 6 rider modes. The outgoing model had 5. This now has 3 track modes, one of them your customizable option, and 3 rider modes for the road. So absolutely customizable in every way. The semi-active suspension, the Brembos, the ABS, the traction control, the anti-wheelie control, the ABS, the full electronic suite, together with this really big, bright, full color TFT display, your semi-active suspension up on top. Really an all-round package. And I must say, first impressions, it seems a little bit more comfortable, this bike, to the older RSV. The tank and the seat, I know, has been redesigned. It nearly feels as if it's shorter. I have a little bit of weight on my forearms and lower back. It is superbike style. You're not sitting upright like a tourer, but not cramped, but also not cranked over the handlebars, leaning over the tank. So a really good position for my height. My feet are high up, but not uncomfortably high. So it is a sport seating position. You feel in charge and in control of this bike, but longer rides would not be a problem on this bike. You are in a comfortable sports bike seated position. The suspension, as per all sports bike, is stiff, but not wildly stiff. We're going to do a little bit of a roll on here. Monstrous power and absolutely seamless and smooth, effortless gear change, upshift. You really have to be paying attention because this bike is a missile. Wow. That was fun. Here we go again. Let's try this. Unfortunately cannot show you the speed on the dashboard because that would not be conducive to my call it staying a free man. However, I can assure you the numbers rolled up into fairly large numbers at a rapid rate. There is no slouch this bike. Absolute missile, rocket ship, and as you saw, smooth. Even on the downshift, if I'm cruising along here at 120 without clutch, I just dropped it one gear. Look at the dash here. I'm clicking up, hardly any movement. Downshift, you can clearly see it visible on the dash. Up to 6 and back down to 7, 5th. There we go. Roll on at low RPMs. What a machine. What a machine. This was definitely worth coming back for a second ride. And obviously the first impressions were really fantastic and made me want to come back for another ride. But with a second ride, you really, your senses are more fine-tuned. You more or less know what's coming and the type of bike you have under you, and really not disappointed in any way. Having a look at some of the specs again, you have over 1 horsepower per kilogram on this bike. You have a bike that weighs wet weight with a full tank of fuel at 202 kilograms. Full tank of fuel is 17.9 kilograms. 17.9 liters, which gives you roughly 4 liters in reserve. So 17.9 liters tank capacity, wet weight at 202 kilograms. The horsepower is 217 horsepower on this bike, which you can see is over a horsepower per kilogram. Newton meters is 125 Newton meter torque. Now, the outgoing model had the Euro 4 motor, and this has the Euro 5, and that is where Aprilia was really clever. They retained the same horsepower. The outgoing model had the massive 217 horsepower with the Euro 4, and now with these more stringent Euro 5 emissions, they still managed 217 horsepower. The torque went up from 122 to 125 Newton meter, and how Aprilia managed that, the older generation had a 1077cc motor, and this one has a 1099cc. So up the cc just slightly, and with that retained the horsepower, up the Newton meter, and I think the whole package is smoother. It's smoother with a roll on, smoother with a gear change. Just fantastic. And if I lean back and you have a look at this cockpit I'm sitting at, you can see the winglets either side. It is really, really beautiful. These colors are 2021 colors, the lava red with this purple and orangey red. The rear view mirrors are great, they're not bouncing around. If you look at my hands, stable and just comfortable all-round seating position. The counter steer input is minimal, so just feels good. I actually still cannot believe Aprilia managed to up their game from the 2020 bike, which to me was the pinnacle of RSV4s ever. Yet here I am, and this bike is even better. Again, I'm coming back to exhausts. The factories of today, and pretty much most of them, are coming out with such good sounding exhaust pipes. Gone are the days when you had to spend a truckload of money when financing and purchasing your bike. You normally spent a lot of money adding on an aftermarket or exhaust or OEM product, and it has to do with safety as well, not just performance. These bikes have enough performance at 217 horsepower, but the sound is important because you want to have a toy that sounds just brilliant. And secondly, if you think about it, the guys driving in cars, when they hear a siren, whether fire engines or police, they look for it before they see it. And the same thing, if you hear a motorbike before you see it, you're more likely to be spotted by the drivers in cars, and that gives you more safety when there's lane changing happening ahead of you and people putting out of blind intersections or junctions from the side. So for me, it's very important to have a good sounding bike with quite an audible sound. I don't really care what legislation says. Safety is more important than their legislation. And if you listen to this bike when you roll on, it's just stunning for a standard pipe, and it's a fully redesigned pipe. The outgoing, the Swan Song, had of course that magnificent Aprilia, which is just obviously one of my favorites. But as a standard pipe, this pipe is not bad at all. If you look at my first review, the teaser, when I had my first ride, you saw that the little kids in the townships we passed, how happy they were to see these bikes and hear that sound, and asked us to rev it in the middle of the street. So here with roll-on, you can get, just listen to the sound, you get to hear that, and at the same time appreciate Table Mountain ahead of us. Here we go. I'm going to just downshift, clutchless, to third, now go down to second, and listen to this, listen to this. That is beautiful sound, and that is a standard sounding pipe on the RSV4. Really, Aprilia did not save. They have semi-active suspension. If you wish to use the clutch, very smooth, light, not too light and sloppy, but light and smooth, letting out the clutch. But really, from pull-off, not necessary. Only when you stop at the stop street you really need to dip the clutch. That quick shifter is so smooth on the up and down shift. Here we use clutch, and I'll short shift to show you how smooth it is. Low RPMs. Really low, under 5,000 I'm changing, and smooth, smooth. Downshift, no clutch. Here we go. 4, 3, effortless, and what a pleasure. And this is where I say, where you immediately feel this bike is smoother than the old one. Nothing wrong with a 2020 RSV4. This is just next level, as only the Italians know how to do. This bike likes to breathe and be on the open road and accelerate, but definitely not tiring from a seated rider position. Definitely no fatigue from my side. I could ride forever. However, we do have to go back and look at this bike in more detail, but let's enjoy Cape Town. Dunes ahead of us. This is not a hardcore seated position that I'm cranked over the handlebars, tucked in. Normally when you hear superbike and you think clip on handlebars, down, nose down, face down on the ground, take a strain on your lower back and neck looking up. This is not like that. Aprilia just has a really great geometry. Always have since the launch of the RSV4. It always looked like a tiny little package, like a monster liter capacity bike in a 600 chassis, and they have retained that. You have the tiny overall feel of the bike, and it's now 1100 1099cc, and so you feel comfortable, not stretched out. Just when you think Aprilia can't step it up from the 2020 swan song RSV4, you have this bike, and they have definitely upped their game. Having a look at this bike, Aprilia produced the first mass-produced narrow angle V4 motor. If you have a look at this motor, it is a narrow angle 65 degrees. The outgoing Euro 4 motor was a 1077cc. This is a 1099cc. It is 4-stroke, liquid cooled, double overhead cam, 16 valve. There's your radiator, and absolutely powerhouse. The Euro 5, they've managed with the slightly bigger cc to retain the 217 horsepower of the outgoing model, and that is reached at 13,000 rpm. The horsepower is slightly up from 122 newton meters to 125 on this beast. 125 newton meter at 10,500 rpm. Absolutely stunning figures, considering this bike only weighs 202 kilograms wet weight. That includes this 17.9 liter petrol tank, also totally redesigned, 4 liters of that being reserve. Your seat section also completely redesigned. If you look at the tail section, very RSV4 look-alike, but redesigned. You can fit your pillion over here. You will see that your seat section is bigger, and your new and bigger TFT. Full color. All your rider modes, everything very cool, very visible. Here your 1100 factory telling you what a stunning machine you have. Now, talking about the factory, this is the RSV4 Factory, and it's produced in 2 guises, the standard as well as the factory. The main differences are this factory gets the Brembo Stilema calipers. It also has the light forged wheels front and back in the split 5 Y spoke, and you have your Öhlins, but not the manually adjustable, the semi-active, full semi-active Öhlins, the Stilema Brembos, and the light forged wheels. Right, then you have the MotoGP influence. As mentioned, this frame comes off the RS250, very successful, 18 world titles, 143 Grand Prix wins to that chassis, and this is an evolution of that. Stunning. And this motor also has a new redesigned exhaust, which gives it that additional horsepower. But here, the MotoGP project, you see this swing arm, it's upside down, turned around. It is produced with lighter materials, and that is for unsprung weight handling, as well as this new swing arm gives you better stability when it comes to hard acceleration. The next MotoGP derived influence would be these winglets in front. Have a look at these. No longer bolt-on add-ons to the original fairing. You see this is directly off the RSGP project. These winglets are totally integrated into the double skinned fairing, and you will see with all these winglets it has multiple functions. The functions would be the downforce, the stability under high speeds, also under hard braking. These winglets also move hot air away from you as the rider. It also helps remove the hot air out of the engine bay. So really some great MotoGP touches, and Aprilia's commitment to constantly improving. Stunning. You see compact little package all round the front. Going to the front, you will see that they have lost the traditional tri-headlight look. However, retained the tri-headlight look. However, with the new modern RS 660 furrowed eyebrow look, which is really stunning and more modern, you still have the tri-headlight. And another cool feature, it has the bending light system in it. What it means is, as you tilt your bike, lean over, there's an additional light in here that lights up to light up those blind dark corners. Also, you'll see on the rear view mirrors, the indicator is lost. It's now built in over here. And if you just have a look at these winglets, absolutely stunning. These colors, as mentioned, it just works. It pops. Every year there's new colors. I love the Italian flag spin in it. Just all round top equipment. Everything works magically. Your electronic suite, 6 rider modes, and all round, I must say, I am surprised in the best possible way. They have managed to improve a bike that was as close to perfect as you could get. And this Aprilia RSV4 is very quickly becoming the benchmark when it comes to superbikes and where you can take superbikes. I hope you enjoyed this review with us of this Aprilia RSV4 Factory, the new machine. Just when you think they've hit the top, the pinnacle of superbikes, they push the boundaries and bring out something even better. This is art in motion. I hope you enjoyed this review with us. Please remember, give us a like, a thumbs up, click that subscribe button to follow us for more.